Hey 3DMJers, this is Andrea Valdez, and today I'm talking to Alberto Nunez and Brad Loomis about what to do when shit gets hard. It started with us kind of riffing on how often we hear people being frustrated with their progress and losing patience with themselves or their physiques along the way. And as coaches, we hear about these athletic slumps all the time, and oftentimes it's the exact reason that people reach out to us and start getting professional help in the first place. So throughout this conversation, once we find our footing in what the hell we were trying to say, which takes a long time, this episode, not gonna lie, we wanted to talk about these hang-up periods and deeply address a couple of the biggest ruts that athletes find themselves in repeatedly and give some insight into how we've helped ourselves and our clients to come out of these difficult situations on the other side. So let's go ahead and get into it. More of an introduction kind of once it starts, but if you have any feedback or comments on this particular episode, go to 3dmusclejourney.com or to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/team3dmj and leave it under podcast number 95. Please enjoy our episode on what to do when shit gets hard with Brad Loomis and Alberto Nunez. Real quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time, we would really, 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 really appreciate it if you would take the time to give us a review on iTunes. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms, which then supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to be the best athletes, coaches, and lifting enthusiasts they could possibly be. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be super dangerous at the moment, pause this thing right now, give us an honest review on your podcast app, and we would love you even more than we already do. Thanks for taking the time. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, Bert, when you hear an athlete say, like, I'm just feeling kind of like I'm in a slump, what does that mean to you? I know it's vague, but a slump. What do you mean?
Yeah. Man, I think it's just basically a period in time where they're not progressing at the rate they wish they were progressing. So sometimes they're even like taking steps forward here and there, but it's a struggle. Or sometimes it's a period of backtracking. Even I think this is even more common with powerlifters sometimes, especially when they get to those periods where maybe you're pushing them to new levels of fatigue, that they were greater than what they might have experienced like earlier in their training career. I think that's kind of a huge transition for a lot of guys. Like, when you go from like, hey, you're very good to like, holy crap, you want to be an excellent powerlifter. We're gonna have to push things even further. So I think that's more for the powerlifters, I guess. With bodybuilders, I think that comes more so when you get to that point where you're like deep into the intermediate phase and all the really, really fun gains took place. So I think for committed athletes, it's just when you get to that point where like progress is just a lot harder to come by than maybe you were used to, like after your first 2 years of solid training. I think that's the one that I see most commonly. I mean, there's other ones where like maybe someone's going from college to their first real job and, training is affected by that. So there's other factors. There's other scenarios that, do come across. Injured athletes, that's another plateau sometimes. But generally speaking, I think the most common one is just when athletes get to that point where it's like, man, in order to really, really push past my late intermediate phase, I'm going to have to, start doing some things, and it's probably going to get worse from this point onward. So I guess it's that huge transition phase.
So is it actually a slump, like a dip, or is it more of a shift in career, like this is how it used to be and it came easy and now it's not and I just need to get used to it? Or do you think that we should talk about both of those?
Well, I think just because I want to include other people who are probably feeling not too wonderful about their training right now. Like the title for this podcast should like almost be like going from intermediate to advanced, because I think that is where the majority of lifters like start to feel this way, after your first 2 3 years of like muscle building, you get to that point where it's like, hey, guess what? People, especially for us drug tested athletes, people are going to be like, why are you still even messing with this? Um,
Okay.
so yeah. So like if you're training drug free, like the first 3 years, they're going to tell you more or less what kind of athlete you're going to be. And sometimes when people get to that point, they're just not
Okay.
ready to, I guess, accept that fact that things have gotten to that point where it's going to be a dogfight.
Okay. So,
But that's the most common, like they see it as a slump where it's like, you know what, like, kid, this is what it's going to be like from this point onwards, kind of deal.
okay.
Like to me as a coach.
All right. Do you have similar feels on that, Brad? Like when you hear an athlete most commonly say, like, I feel like I'm just kind of stuck. Do you feel like they're actually temporarily stuck, or it's just they've hit that wall between honeymoon phase and like what this will be like now?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I can really kind of expand on what Berto talked about because I mean,
Yeah.
even me myself, I can remember experiencing slumps, really before I probably entered the intermediate phases of training, and a lot of times, if you think about like slumps in other sports, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what am I doing now that used to work but is not, and I need to find that next level. I need to refine that technique just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be a little bit faster with the ball out of my hand. I need to have that first step be more explosive, or whatever.
Yeah.
Golfers go through slumps. Maybe they need to release a little sooner or whatever, and sometimes you're talking milliseconds. And so when I think of my slumps in the past is both lifter and bodybuilder, sometimes I kind of just had to just tweak one little thing. I remember how big it was when I started really bracing and really using my Valsalva.
Mm-hmm.
In the immediate short term, I was actually kind of a little bit, it felt like I was a little bit weaker, because you're more out of breath. You got to hold your breath for that period of time, and you can't get as many repetitions, But then in the long run, even though you kind of maybe slump a little bit or kind of fall back a little bit, it springboards you, quite a few steps forward. So that's kind of one thing. And oftentimes it's our athletes that come to us, right? And they say that they're in a slump, or, they're plateaued, or whatever. And so a lot of times we know the backgrounds of our athletes. And so I'll take that into consideration. I'll say, well, you know what? You've been at this now for about 4 or 5 years. I think we can still milk some of these kind of beginner phases of adaptations. Let's take a look at some lifts. What can we do better here? Maybe you're a better low bar squatter. Maybe you're a better, sumo puller. Maybe we need to widen up that grip on your overhead press or whatever. So yeah, I think that's kind of the things that I would add, to not only the natural adaptations of the training phases, but what sometimes happens all throughout our lifting careers.
Yeah. I hear a lot of, there's like 15 different topics y'all both just like brought to my mind there. But I get what y'all are saying. Like it's not, like we recently had a podcast that was all about training volume. And when we talked about all the ways that you can play with it, manipulate and calculate and all that stuff. But aside from that, like what you just said, Brad, you're like, there's these natural progressions that happen like physiologically. Okay, we get that. But it also sounds like y'all are saying too that it's more of like a mental or emotional stuck, or a technical stuck, or like it's fixable, but it's not necessarily like a programming thing that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Bouncing off what Brad said, I think when I think about like what was my first actual plateau, like it wasn't even like when I stop and think about it, it didn't have anything to do with like my training, how it was organized, my strategy really in any way. But it was going from like high school to like adulthood, and like having to, have this college schedule, and then like, keep a job at the same time. So I remember when that first started rolling, like at first it was kind of fun because I'm like, hey, I'm kind of doing this like responsible young adult thing, but like somewhere around like month 2, I'm like, man, like this is starting to like mess up. Like I couldn't help but think like my training would be so much better if I didn't have to do all this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, going from teen to adult, I guess. I remember that being like my first, like my training just sucked for like 6 months until I kind of just learned to like sleep on a pee, you know, to like figure it out. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so like life changes.
Yeah, sometimes that will, you know, and if you love this stuff, you can't help but think about, you know, your training's going to be in the back of your mind, you know, like
Yeah.
your job, your city, you know, things like that. I think, that can cause people to slump for a while, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, let's.
Well, and too, and if I think about like your biggest slump, it was just due to like just downright being injured. You know, that'll cause more deeper slumps than anything really. But just
Yeah.
like you've proven, like John Elway's proven, you get in those injury slumps, it's not the end of the world. You're going to have to work hard, but you're going to be able to get past it. And just like most things, you got to devise a strategy, and then you got to be patient. You just got to work it. You got to work it, work it, work it. You got to devise your plan. You might even have to alter your plan a little bit. Um, but yeah, you got to be patient. You got to work the plan. You got to see it all the way through.
Brad, what
Okay.
was wrong with Elway?
Remember, he
I
tore his
forgot.
bicep. Remember, he was
Oh,
all screwed up because of his bicep was impinging something in his shoulder, and he had a couple years there where he just was not good. And then
wow,
as soon as he
okay.
tore that bicep off, it freed up his shoulder, and he won 2 Super Bowls.
No flex Fridays though.
No flex right.
No.
Just one. He still has another arm.
But you have
Um.
to hold the phone. You have to hold the phone. It's hard.
Well, let's start attacking all these fucking things that y'all just said a little bit. So I want to, if
Yeah.
we could, like with because like Bert says, there's with any sport, there's a lot more beginners than there are intermediates than they are like advanced athletes, right? So there's a lot more honeymooners than there are current competitors and there are like career peoples, right? And so let's start with that first one of um, people losing the honeymoons. And oh, okay, I guess, like, is this a big deciding time? Like, do you
Mm. I think it's good that they know that that's what's going on. Because, you know, just to get to that point where you're now at a place that the adaptations you have stimulated before have you on the cusp of going like early intermediate to like middle, late intermediate, like that's good on you because you did a lot of good things to get to that point. Like not just any dummy can get there. So in a way, just being there, is a privilege in its own right. You know, getting to the point where it's like, regardless of how it is, like, you know, some kids look like what's his name, Jeff's
Josh?
kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then for other kids, it's like it might be like half the lean body mass, dude. Sorry, but like the fact that you made it here, it is a testimony to your strategy and work ethic, and hopefully you love it because it's going to get a lot slower from here. But like, it's a
Yeah,
privilege to be in this situation.
this is like we're talking after your first, somewhere after your first, like 1 to 3 years, depending on who you are and how
Yeah.
stupid or unintelligently or intelligently you
That's a
started
great
it.
way. I've never heard. Yeah, but that's about right. Like it could take anywhere from 1 to 3 years, depending on what you did.
Yeah.
Well, and like me, depending on like how little I ate or whatever, right? Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
there's a
That's part of that is a variable for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So okay. Um. So these newbie gains are slowing or they're gone, or just not at the rate at which you got used to, right? And so now you're
Hmm.
like lightweight depressed.
Yeah.
And like Bert's like, okay, be proud, you got to this point, whatever. But
In
then,
powerlifting for males, it's like the guy that squats like 405, bench presses maybe 315, and is right around 500 at that deadlift. Like
that's
that
where,
guy, you know, he'll never have like super like Nintendo numbers, but he could have some pretty good numbers like at the end of his career. But like it's just kind of when you're there and you're that guy, it sucks. Um,
yeah. Or
because I guess we all.
so is it in actual, like Brad said, it's a natural progression of things, but the problem here when we call it a slump is more like a realization or like not like a depression, but you're like,
No.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Your reward's going to come in later and later, like intervals, and you're just
So as a coach,
gonna have
Brad,
to be okay with that.
yeah. So as a coach, do you first when someone says when you know someone's in this phase, Brad, and they come to you for their weekly check and they're like, you know what, shit's just kind of stale, or I do feel stuck or whatever, is your first like, do you kind of know when that's happening, or do you at first like look around for programming holes, or do you kind of recognize, like, after all these years of coaching, like, okay, this is the point in their career?
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes that's kind of, it almost requires back and forth in a way,
Okay.
you know, because sometimes folks, they just, like they say, like you said, it's stale. It's a little stale right now. And so then, of course, that is a very broad description, and we need to pull out a lot of information there. What do you mean by it stale? Do we need to sub out exercises? Are you no longer progressing? You know, are you no longer progressing at the rate that you were at? What do you kind of reiterate and define better for me what you mean by stale? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's a lot of times a lot of back and forth that has happened there. Sometimes things are progressing great, and we just need to freshen up some secondary exercises or something like that. Others, you know, they're bodybuilders. They love the pump and the feel and the squeeze, and they're just tired of squatting, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth that usually has to, you know, to take place there. And I think that's more so for the more novice athletes, you know. Those intermediate and advanced athletes, God bless them, they're kind of like me. They're just like, you know, just give me my programming and I'll get it done. You know, they don't need a lot of freshness. They don't need a lot of bells and whistles and fancy, you know, hammer strength thingies and pulley down thingies and stuff like that, you know. And so when they're stale, you know, if they're like saying I'm stale or I've hit a slump or whatever, then it's kind of like, well, I don't need to pull quite so much from this athlete. Something's not right there. They're not progressing as much. Maybe we're pushing them a little too hard during this phase of training, you know. Yeah, then we start thinking programming holes or recovery holes, or are they eating enough, or are they getting enough rest, or what have you.
Okay. So it could be like a real big personality thing. Like someone.
Yeah, sure, that's another consideration too.
Well, yeah. Because a true stall, if they're someone who is happy on a pretty mechanical, like robotic program for years and years or months and months, right? And then they're stalling, it might actually be those things. Like it might actually be a physical stall. But I don't want to say if, I am someone who really enjoys a lot of variety and lots of things. And if I was on that program, I very well could just be bored, I guess, right? Or I could, yeah, I don't know. But I get what you're saying. Like, it depends on the athlete and, like, your history and knowing their personality. So, like, and I guess their goal, too. Like, because stalling for a bodybuilder is, like, it depends on what they mean by stall and what they mean by still, I guess. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but, like a power lifter, when you say stalling, it's like, it revolves around these three numbers. But a bodybuilder, it's like, it could be their perceived stall in physique just because they don't see what they want or whatever when they...
Yeah. Yeah.
Finish what
With
I'm
gaining
saying,
muscle.
Bert.
I mean, even with like really like lean people, like it's I mean, the changes that happen initially are so crazy. Like they change the way your clothes like fits. Like you'll never have a spurt that, you know, does that like that or to that extent, you know?
So it's an expectation problem, like Brad says.
Yeah. And with like muscle, it's just like, well, guess what? It's just gonna be slow from here, and that can be like
So
you need side goals.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So how do you, as a coach, convince someone? Let's just say that that it is an expectation problem, right? They're used to these 3 years of shit just happening, whether strength or physique, and it's slowing. And programming wise, like you've followed them for these years, and like, oh, well, because they're getting better at lifting, their progress is slowing. And they're like all mad about it, and you're like, well, this is kind of what it is now. Like, how do you have those conversations, or how do you convince someone that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, I hope you're asking the question, Andrea.
I am.
I'm going to give you my answer.
Please. Yeah, please do.
A lot of times, both bodybuilding and powerlifting, I'll just kind of use simple logic in a way. And it's funny because my son today, he came to me and he said, gosh, you know what? My 20 time was 3:24, and now it's like 3 flat. I've knocked a quarter of a second off of there. So if I've done that in a full year, by next year, I'll be at a 2.75, and then by the year after that, I'll be at 2.5, and I'll be like, son, if you really think about that, you're gonna be running light speed by the time you're 30, And so a lot of times I have to kind of use logic with my athletes. If they're a bodybuilder,
That's so perfect.
This way, okay, your quad has grown a quarter of an inch in this first year of training. If that keeps up, your thighs are going to be as big as tree trunks by the time you're 25. It's the limiting factor there. Your body is not going to let you do that. And the same with strength. Sure, you put on 75 pounds in this first year and a half on your squat. Think about where that's going to go if your body doesn't stop you or slow down in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times right there, the little light switch turns on and they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, now you're starting to understand training adaptations, the physiologic adaptations that go along with this. And then, of course, expectations are a lot more realistic.
Yeah. Like your body doesn't want or need you to be 250. Like, you know what I mean? When getting to 200 was easy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think this is where you have to educate your lifter. Like, this is where, like, starting to, I think maybe up until that point they knew stuff, but it was kind of surfacey. And I think this is probably the point with an athlete, I'm actually like sending them stuff to read. It's like, here, read this, read that, because like you've been great at like driving the car, but I need you to know a little bit more about what's going on inside of work and like maximize it. So I think, just getting them more educated. I think I might have enjoyed all the muscular gains I made initially with training, but this last leg has been better because like it's been great to like go in there and like dissect the situation. Like, it made me love it more than like before, to be honest, when I was just making gains.
Yeah, and it's hard to accept, or not hard to accept, to explain to someone like you're slowing down because you're getting better. Like because you are more advanced. It's not like some things where like the harder you work, the longer you work, the more, like some things do get better. I'm trying to think of other things, but I can't. But like with lifting, like Bryce Lewis isn't going to put 50 pounds on his squat this year, but he probably did back, 5-10 years ago or whatever. Yeah. Or more, most likely with Bryce, like 3 times as much, I'm sure. But okay. So are there times, Bert, where someone gets to this slump, they legit reject all this education, and they're like, this isn't for me anymore. It's not fun anymore if it doesn't come this fast.
No, because I think if you made it there, like, you must enjoy this and you must be invested, and you just need the right person to teach you, I think, at that point. I think that is important, just like sometimes you can be a great coach, but maybe when it comes to like explaining things to your athletes, that's not your thing, or maybe not with you, So I mean, you make an effort to, and hopefully how this person learns and how they would much rather receive this information. Like, there's people who, like, I'm gonna direct to this work, and then the people who I'm gonna direct to is like easier work, like my people who want to know but not know all the way, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think most intermediates at some point should be at least somewhat curious and well versed in regards to like how things work at a deeper level, outside of just the numbers.
Okay.
On their spreadsheet.
Would you agree with that, Brad, or do you ever have people that are just like, this isn't really...
Well, the neat thing in today's day and age is there's so much stuff to do, and ironically enough, while some people, they do say, you know what, yeah, this lifting thing is not for me. I'm going to go do kettlebell training, or I'm going to go do CrossFit, or I'm going to go do, this or that, at least half of those people end up coming back.
Yeah.
One comes to mind right now that just did not expect to ever hear from this person again. And lo and behold, back for another competition prep. And,
for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of tend to agree with Bert a little bit. It's like you get a lot of enjoyment out of this, regardless of the slumps and the plateaus and the setbacks and the injuries and things like that. You kind of migrate back there again at some point.
I did go away for some point myself. I played basketball for a year. Like, that's what I did.
So did Jeff, right? He did basketball and tennis all the time. Yeah.
And he did basketball and tennis. Yeah. I'm surprised we never saw each other because he was from the Bay Area, I was from the Bay Area. And I would go hunting for basketball games. That was. Yeah, I'm sure Jeff was fantastic too.
I bet. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well,
Fundamentals were all there.
Yeah, and coming from myself, if I think about it, in the last 5 years, I've very aggressively chased 3 different sports, but they all feel the same to me.
Yeah.
They're like the bodybuilding, powerlifting, and the CrossFit shit.
I like how you've managed to do that. Yeah. It's like you're just progressing with the iron in some way.
Yeah, but they're also, like Brad said, they're kind of, I don't see them the same, but I do. I realize that they're very different, and I realize that, but it's not like I say, I very aggressively chase 3 sports, but they all involve back squatting, they all involve curls, they all involve, I realize bodybuilding, I didn't have to run or row or whatever, but it's, I need cardio to diet, and I like that. So it's all perception, I guess. The boredom argument I would get sometimes, and usually from athletes that aren't as experienced, yes, but that doesn't mean they want to quit bodybuilding, or it doesn't mean, it's kind of like what Brad mentioned earlier. Some people really are just pump chasers, and they just need that. Maybe their physique needs more compounds, but they enjoy the higher reps, and so you can give them both, or you can me being someone who has a lot of preference or who misses things that I don't get to do. I always try to do that as a coach. We can't, there's a lot of ways that we can push you towards your goals while still giving you what you like. It's pretty rare that you want something that's going to kill you or kill your bodybuilding or powerlifting goals. Unless you said, I also want to run marathons. We can usually make it work.
It's funny because when I think of everything you're doing now, sometimes I think in my head she's probably thinking long term every once in a while, really, really, really long term. And what you're doing now, I think at the end is going to make you a better bodybuilder the day you decide to get back on that stage.
I've always said that. Yeah. I've always, my physique hasn't grown. My physique has grown more since I started functional fitness. And y'all all agreed to, I'm not speaking for y'all. I swear, listeners, they told me that separately as a functional fitness person than when I was just bodybuilding for a lot of reasons. But I don't know if y'all seen elite CrossFitters. They're pretty jacked, especially the females.
Yeah. What do you know about lifting? Since diving into this world has been that's kind of been, I think, part of your getting to that next level with your bodybuilding. It's you had to dive in a level deeper, and that was your experience with this world. Because hearing you talk about movement, sometimes I'm dude, when she first moved to Sacramento,
yeah, I didn't know shit.
Decided that, yeah.
What's funny is I could have with if you told me. Because I was coaching gymnastics. So no, with weightlifting, I wasn't very educated in levers. And if I think about it, it's my gymnastics coaching, that's all it was. It was biomechanics and when I'm working with athletes. But when it came to under tension. I didn't know how to explain things well. I didn't know how to watch things. Bert had to teach me a deadlift from scratch. I was doing like a bikini boot camp girl back squat and deadlift. Because it's like I had the biggest arches and everything, and I was just like, no offense if you teach it. yeah. But I mean, I was a base, and I cheered, and I did gymnastics, so everything was like an arch, and I had so like I didn't know, like I knew rigid spine like hollow in gymnastics, but I didn't know rigid spine like conventional deadlift. So yeah, I didn't know shit.
But it's crazy to hear you talk about it because you do have an eye for that stuff. I guess it just goes back to like just being raised that way, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, Bert, you taught me a deadlift. Like it's okay. So if I think about my big shift, I guess it was education. Yeah, not just absolutely. Later, but luckily early on, like when I met Berto, and I was already like on the YouTubes and had followers and shit. I remember I would week 1, 4x8. Week 2, 4x6s on everything, and week 3 was like 3x12 or something. I'm making this up, but like that was my programming for myself. Yeah. And I was making the gains because I didn't really lift before or have any idea before. But I would just rotate these 3 weeks of like random ass sets or these 4 weeks, and he was like, "Oh God."
That was so crazy.
But I had structure. Damn it.
Yeah.
That was it. I just made it up.
But you worked so hard, and that's why it worked. You know.
Well, okay, let's talk about that though, because I know that you mentioned that at the beginning, and we were deciding on this. You were like, "Shit just gets hard." So when is it that you find out that maybe they're just a bitch and they can't handle what's to come for the next 20 years?
Well, this is true. This can't happen because, and maybe this will help those people like get a head start. Like, but I guess the way it works sometimes is like you could be doing everything right. You're sleeping, you're eating, you're training, and you know that this is absolutely right, and you just get stuck. You just get stuck, and nothing happens, and nothing happens, and nothing happens, and you're just going, and then finally, for like some unknown reason, like you make that breakthrough. Like you're brushing your teeth, and you're like, I look more jacked, you know, or this lift that's just been like frustrating the shit out of you. You finally crack it for no reason. That's just kind of sort of how the long game is at some point. And I think the first few times I went through that, it was just really discouraging. But then I started to find out that other guys go through the exact same thing. Like the best go through the exact same thing. Like you hear guys like Greg Knuckles going through stuff like that. You know, Helms with his bench press, and then like finally, you know, just a few years ago he got his stuff together. Bryce has had like a few of those aha moments where same thing. It's like nothing's happening. I'm very frustrated. Like I'm not having fun anymore. And then, boom, here comes this mad rush, and nothing was changed. So sometimes, it's just like you just got to be tenacious and, you know, work, assuming, again, that you are familiar with all the basic principles. And like, let's just make sure that thing is like sound. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can be going at it, and it's just not going to happen frequently at the rate that you'd like it to. But I enjoy that part. I get it's where you start to get things that apply to life from your lifting. I think it's when you get to that point.
Well, and that's when you're going to find out if you truly love it or not. You know. Yeah. When shit does get hard, you know, that's when you really filter out, you know, all of the pretenders. You know, because I mean, I know twice. I can think twice, just off the top of my head, where, you know, shit wasn't fun. You know, and it was just like it's been about 6 years ago. I just remember squatting. I was squatting, and it just seemed like I was always squatting just over 300 pounds, and just could not progress, you know, and it used to just piss me off, you know, and I would do all of the programming things that I knew that, you know, I needed to do, and kept the fundamentals in place. And it just kind of got to the point where it's like, you know what, okay, fine. Maybe I'm just old, and I'm just not going to progress anymore. But you know what? It still feels really freaking good to just walk in any gym, throw 6 plates on a bar and squat, you know, this little skinny old man, with a crooked back, right? And so I just kind of just embraced it and said, I'm just going to have to do this, the rest of my life, but it still feels pretty good. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, boom, it just started going. I was always just kind of training with these sub-maximal loads that I knew that I could do, and just, kind of stuck with it, and kind of really all of a sudden just like abandoned any type of progressive training. And it just started clicking, all of a sudden. And then not long after that, started getting a couple coaches. I found out I was a more coachable guy, and, things just started moving after that, and they really haven't slowed down since.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can honestly, for real, say I've never not looked forward to lifting or been like, felt like this isn't fun or like whatever. Even when I said earlier, I'm someone who likes variety. It's not that I need it. If I have like this goal of, like if I had a powerlifting goal, I was doing the big three. Like it was no big. But it's always in hindsight when something does change that I realized I wasn't having fun. Or not as much fun as I could have been, because when there's a goal, I'll always like kind of blindly go towards it, and then like, okay, I did my meet, and then like Bert's like, you can go have a free week in the gym, and I'll go like flip around and be like, damn it, I love flipping around, and I'll be like, like I'll have these highs, and I'm like, why haven't I been doing that? And so then I have to like go backwards and incorporate it or whatever, and I think that's the whole. Like Bert said, it's the lessons outside of it that aren't just the lifting. Like with me, it's always like mental note and build on that, right? Like if I ever have an extreme emotion, I feel like that's something. Like I said, I'll have like one day where I'll go flip around. I'm like, shit, I should have been doing this more often. And then like I'll go do it more often, or like. My bench press back in the day after my powerlifting meet, and I was just benching for funsies. When I went from when I started benching 3 times a week, it actually did go up 2. And it's like, okay, mental note, if I ever want to get really good at bench again, at some point in my life, like generally higher frequency works better for that. And I think Eric's the same way. And so I think I've never felt stale. I think though a thing that's always excited me is that knowing every few months, every few weeks, every couple years, whatever, something is going to come up that's like a holy shit, and then you just like carry it with you, But I've never been like, meh, I don't want to go to the gym today or whatever. But I have been injured. I guess this might be a good segue into, okay, let's say you're past that stick point. Okay, this is it. I get it. I want to keep lifting. I've accepted things are slower now. And then some shit happens, whether it is becoming an adult, like Bert said, or getting a different job or whatever. What do we do?
So do you want to segue into the
injuries? Or
yeah, okay.
Should we just lump dips?
No.
Like injuries and life changes and whatever, or is it just like, what do you do?
But yeah, the injuries, I think, is just so long-winded. So I'm like, are we going to go there? But I guess we should at this point. No, the injuries are, like, it's going to happen.
Y'all can cut me whenever you want.
Huh?
So you can cut me off whenever you want. I'll just keep talking.
No. No, we should get to this one because this is a big one. It's the injuries.
Hold on, though. Long-winded, like with me talking, or like we've gone so far in this podcast not talking about it?
Subject, not you.
Okay.
Not you. Yeah. No, you're fine.
You're nice.
It's just like we kind of been saving this one because that is the case. Is that if you're going to be doing this long enough, you will, and hard enough, and progressing at some point, like your system will break, and like sometimes you're lucky, and it's like it's kind of like it's just this ankle, but I can do other things with my legs. But sometimes it can be like downright like I'm very limited across many movements. I think dealing with that is
the fucking worst.
Something that you're going to have to deal with at some point. And I think a committed athlete does what they can, both like outside the gym to get better, and then in regards to like what they can safely do in the gym to help them from decaying, I guess, too much.
Yeah, I think we should. But I think what you said is right, though. Let's make it about these two. So we did as a podcast. Let's have we talked about this big transition. That's just going to happen. And then I think a second half should be about this because this one's emotionally heavy, I feel like. The big dip.
Changes?
No, the injury, like the big dips when you have to go backwards or when you have to go backwards.
Yeah.
Because I'm in that right now. I spent the whole quarter going backwards and I'm just now starting to go back forward.
Well, see, and you're pretty well versed in what you have to do to get better. Like, and no doubt in your mind that, like, yeah, we'll do this, and that. It's just frustrating how long I have to potentially wait. That kind of gets to you. But like, there's people out there who like don't know, and I think for them is the ones that like I feel who haven't been through this, because this isn't your first time going through something.
Dude.
At least right.
Yeah, I mean, since like I broke my first finger in like gymnastics and like shit. No, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, like, no, when I was 10, right? So I was competing in gymnastics, so I was like 6 or 7, but I was 10 years old. I broke the shit out of my arm. Like, it snapped in half. Like, I broke both my radius and my ulna, and it was like this. Like, my bone was like, yeah.
My God. How did you do that?
I got a grip lock. It's this thing in gymnastics. Like, it doesn't happen to real people, just gymnasts. Usually male gymnasts, too, because their bar is thinner. But you know how you wear those leather grips? Okay, so mine, while I was doing this thing called a clear hip circle, which doesn't matter, I was going around the bar. Luckily, it was on the low bar. So when I was 10, the low bar is like forehead height or something, right? Yeah. Because I was a little Nina. And when I'm upside down, like the leather on leather gets wrapped, and so your hand doesn't move, but your body keeps going around the bar.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So,
oh, my gosh.
So my feet land on the floor. The bar is up to my forehead, right? But my hand is under the bar. Does that make sense?
Yes. Stop.
Anyways, yeah, and so I turns out like,
okay,
so I broke that shit out of my arm, basically is what I'm trying to say. It actually didn't break the skin, though. I could see it, but it didn't, so it was just like bobbing around. Sorry, listeners. But this was my first big... So I think I was in shock, too, because I didn't cry. I was 10.
Okay.
I was in 5th grade, yeah. And I remember I was so terrified. Like, so there's like mind you, I competed in gymnastics till like 14, which is pretty old for a female gymnast, I'm not gonna lie. And pretty far, level-wise. But I remember that was so terrifying and devastating that I was like, I was in a cast for like forever. I had like pins and shit, all this stuff. But I quit gymnastics. I was like, I'm not coming back. No way. Like that's a disaster, you know? And then like, as soon as I could, which is like 4 months later, I could go, I was like, okay, well, I miss flipping, Mom. Will you take me to tumbling classes? So just the floor, just the, like no bars, no beam, no nothing. I was like, I just want to go to tumbling. I think I was there like a week and I was like, okay, Mom, I need to go back to gymnastics, but I'm never going to wear grips. Never going to wear grips. I just want to swing a little. The Chinese gymnasts don't wear grips. It's going to be fine. Because that's actually true. I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. Because Americans are spoiled and we need... Hell no, dude. I couldn't do any of this shit I could do before without my grips. And I was like, shit. So anyways, within a year, I'm like back in gymnastics full force. Like it was no big. But it was... that was like a fear thing, though. I realize that doesn't happen. But I'm saying like, that's how early I had a good dose of like... not like a jammed finger, but like a big injury, you know, like it taking me over a year to get back. And I'm 30, how old am I? 32 now. I'd say I've had that happen at least 5 times in my life. So it doesn't like scare me, and it doesn't feel like, I mean, it kind of does feel like the end of the world up for a little bit every time, but like somewhere in the back, you know, like you can always come back from it.
You almost have to let yourself like be okay with yourself believing that short term, you know?
Yeah, but
it's like you gotta kind of emotionally express, because it does feel that way. Like even if you're a logical person and you understand how shit works, and this isn't your first time,
it feels like the end of the world.
Frustrating.
It kind of feels like the end of the world every time. And y'all were there in January, just this January. I'm saying like 32. When I had another like a meltdown because like I had like 3 things that were just like preventing me from upper and lower body. And I was like, fuck, I need to take a big step back. And I went from like 12 training sessions a week to like 4.
Yeah.
And so I guess encouragement would be like it sounds weird, but like Bert said, you're gonna have them a lot, so it's practice. Like,
Yeah. Well, Brad's working through this like rib thing, and
shit
he's been doing so for
forever.
like a while. Yeah, and he just keeps on doing it. He's like, if I need to like, I don't know, like put something in there to release pressure, or just like we found every way to keep him lifting sometimes.
Well,
And
that's a
like
good differentiation.
slowly but
Like,
surely,
there's
like he's trending in that direction.
Yeah.
yeah.
We've all gotten pretty creative when it comes to dealing with this rib injury of mine.
Yeah. Well, that's a good differentiation, though, right? There are these like catastrophic injuries, but generally, as a powerlifter and bodybuilder, you're gonna get the ones more like Brad. Not that you can't have big giant ones, but it's usually like this lingering fucking thing that just will not stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And were you ever depressed
and
about it, Brad? Like, I know we always have this thing in the back, like as a team, we're always like, Brad's rib, damn it. But was it ever like a point where like devastating, I'm not going to powerlift anymore?
No, not really. Not really. But you know what? I've always said for, a long time now, like, gosh, I can't even remember how long, that I'm going to do this the rest of my life in some way, shape, or form. I mean, even if it means that I'm, out on the deck, in my wheelchair because my hips are shot and I have to transfer over into the leg extension machine and do my leg extensions because my knees are still working,
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I really admire the just the love that I guess you see people that do have something catastrophic. They're in a wheelchair and they still go to the gym. And sometimes people are got some sort of huge injury to their arm or their hand or something, and they still figure out how to deadlift with a strap over their shoulders, or something like that. They just figure it out, and I just think, gosh, I thought I had love for this, but that's love right there, maybe a little crazy, but that's a different subject. But no, I never really got depressed about it because I was just like, well, you know what? Okay, so maybe I can't deadlift for a while, or ever, but I can still do this and I can still do that. I can still lift, in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, so I think another reflection of the just what this has done for me. And so it's kind of like when this has done so much for me, it's like that love is kind of reciprocated, I guess, for this thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's always, it sounds kind of weird, but when you like these things that make us feel depressed or whatever, when you come back from them, you get a new surge of newbie gains and feels. And so it's like you're beyond excited to come back, like in the dip, right? There's that downward like shitty thing, but when you come out of the dip, it feels like we talked about your first 1 to 3 years of training. I mean, Lord knows how many post-injury PR posts we've made on Instagram. Shit.
Yeah.
It feels
it's
just
funny.
as
You
exciting.
Tell yourself, I will never take my progress for granted again. You always tell yourself that, and you never do. But it always feels like, man, like we could have partied a bit hard about the good moments we had.
Yeah. Well, and then what's funny is as a physique athlete, the most depressed hashtag injury, not real one, I ever had was when I stopped to have my breast augmentation, and it was when I was in the thick of my life, depending on how I looked, and in the thick of lifting in the morning, cardio in the evening, not even prepping, but needed to look this way kind of thing. And I was crazy as shit doing that. But I like, that's the only time I think, or no, one of the very few times I've cried in the gym because I felt chubby and I couldn't do abs because it still hurt like my chest up here. I was just like such a wreck, dude. Such a wreck. And that's like 100% a psychological slump. Like, obviously I'm okay. I fucking chose it, first off. Like, but it was just like so crazy. And like when I look at it now, I was so crazy. But whoa, is that a motorcycle? Bert's riding a motorcycle right now, listeners. Currently,
Oh,
he's on a Harley at the moment. If you're
God,
not
that
watching
guy, I
this,
hate that guy. He thinks he's cool with his leather jacket.
well, but
He'll
like
be
you've
back.
talked about it before, though, Bert. It's like the mental injuries. So like your slump, actually, it is real, right? If I have sutures in my boobs, that's real. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, that one's real.
but I mean, like there's the slumps from a bodybuilder that come from dieting or undieting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like that's a big one. It's
Yeah.
like feeling. It always feels good when you're like just nailing whatever your dietary strategy is. I think everyone to some extent, whatever system they're running, it could be like it could be myself, it could be Eric Helms, it could be whoever. Like we like adherence is something we aim for and we look to improve over time. And our system adapts to it, but we also have to meet it halfway. But yeah, so when you're going through that and you're like, I'm killing whatever my dietary system is at this point, whether you're new like macro counter, you're trying to get off like macro counting and trying to like do the more intuitive, educated approach, slash dynamic approach, many ways you can look at that.
Yeah.
Like adherence is a big part of it. So like when you're on fire with that and then it gets disrupted at some point, like that's really hard to deal with. And I think the biggest one I can think of was like just going from my first contest prep to like trying to get back to off season.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just some weird things like in regards to food focus, in regards to how you seem like you're really dependent on food at this point to like not just make you like perform in the gym, but like other things that it's like mildly annoying. So like reshifting back to I guess being
Functioning member of society.
yeah, especially where the nutrition tends to impede is an important. It's a hard phase to get to come back from. I think that's probably the biggest slump for, at least when it comes to the athletes that we work with. When we haven't been 100% okay with our diets.
Yeah.
Or strategies.
Yeah. I think the number of like emotional slumps might surprise some people compared to like actual physical ones.
Yeah, I think they more so happen on that side. Like when I think about it, like, to be honest, it's just that no one really talks about it.
Yeah, because it's like internal, usually.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, I'll get messages from random people and they'll ask about how is it that I'm able to stay perfect with my diet, and it's like I kind of am, but like over time I've learned to make it more flexible and to like have safety nets and such. But I'm not perfect. I'm just I guess really good at like falling off and getting right back up again, and like it didn't.
Well,
happen.
I think you redefine perfect though. Like perfect at one point or at some points means hitting macros, and like for now,
Yes, exactly.
perfect for you means like gaining weight over time, and that it's just a different. Like I might perceive perfect as hitting macros, and so since you're having success, I assume you're hitting all your macros, and that's like not even what your goal is or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say right now, this deep into like your like a non-prep season, that you are, what would you say your adherence level is to whatever system you have for yourself?
Like how do I feel like I'm like hashtag nailing it, and like what feels like I'm not?
Yeah.
Good sessions, like good training sessions. By that I mean like not like it sounds like the biggest challenge or the thing that I'm always looking for like during a training week. So it's like not feeling super heavy or super empty almost ever. So I eat a lot more often than I used to when I was just working about physique. But right now it means balancing like not having GI distress. Sounds weird, but if I'm running and I have to take a shit or like I feel bloated, like it doesn't feel good. And somewhere in the 2,000 to 2,400 range on a training day. But that's literally how like vague it is. Like I can't really tell you. I can tell you what's not it, and it's just like every probably Saturday night since I don't train on Sundays. Brandon and I will go out for ice cream. We'll go out to eat or whatever, and I can sit and watch a movie with a big fat belly and like not care because when I wake up it'll be fine. But I won't do that. Like I think I'm more strict. Not think. I know I'm more strict about my food selection than I used to be as a bodybuilder, only because then it was eat whatever you possibly can to feel full. And now it's, if you eat that, you won't feel good. So pick the Cliff Bar over the salad kind of thing, even though I think they're both delicious or something like that. But mine it's super based on how I'm feeling. And I can also feel not just heavy in my gut, but like if I'm eating out too much or not sleeping enough, I just feel heavy when I do like gymnastics-y things. Like pull-ups feel harder, my feet feel slower on a snatch, like weird stuff like that. So it's now hitting it, I guess if I was to put it broadly, means like feeling good. That's it, to be honest.
I asked because you're the one that's been like not dieting.
I couldn't learn that. Like you said, it's a weird fucking thing how I couldn't learn that unless I stepped that far away from bodybuilding. And it's not that I give zero fucks about my physique. It's like just the physique is a second. It's an afterthought, and it always follows if I'm doing what makes me feel good.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's useful for the listeners, to be honest.
No. There's I love, like, for example, I love to go hike, and I know that sometimes, like, especially if I've been hiking like quite a bit, sometimes like I'll get out there like 4 consecutive weeks. Sometimes that can kind of mess up my training and make it very frustrating. But again, it's one of those things where it's like kind of self-induced. But,
I think it's made me unnecessarily sensitive though too. Like if I know, like I don't know, like when I'm too full and I have to put my belt on. Like actually, that's how I can see if my body weight is changing too. It's like if when I put my belt on, I'm like, shit, that's a little snug because it's been on the same notch for 3-4 years or whatever. But if it's tight, I'm like, oh shit, Andrea, you better watch it. and then I know to like, let's start counting this week, and then I'm like, oh okay. Or a lot of times, like if I know what's going on, it doesn't freak me out. Like if I'm in the middle of a training week and my belt feels tight, I'm like, maybe I need to track. But that almost never happens now. Usually I can correlate it. Like if I went out of town, my belt will be tight this week, and then it'll be fine again. I don't talk about me anymore. Brad, what about you?
What about Brad?
What about Brad that's your like because you haven't competed in bodybuilding long. Oh wait, no, you did 2014 for
I did the guest posing in 2015. I was lean, but I wasn't shredded.
But you're also in a weight class sport, and I'm not.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there is a certain point, and you guys.
Why is this funny, Brad?
I forgot that he did. Like, dude, that takes. Like, I remember Brad was just staying lean for no reason that year. And it was close enough for that. I remember that, like, but you competed the year before. But yeah, I remember Brad was just chilling in the 160s pretty much, and like just felt okay. Yeah, I remember that.
I thought I looked pretty damn good too. You know.
Yeah.
Not bodybuilder good, but pretty damn good. But yeah, what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about weight class. So, because you guys remember here recently, I'm like, I'm too heavy for my weight class.
Brad, y'all, for the listeners, Brad had an emotional slump about his ability to diet last month. So I think we should talk about this. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I was again kind of like my deadlift story, earlier, or my squat story earlier this conversation. I just gave up. I just said, fine, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to compete in the 93s. 83s, I'm too old. I can't lose weight. Testosterone's too low. Whatever. Can't do it, right? And so I just gave up. And then before you know it, lo and behold, I'm like, you know what? The only thing I'm paying attention to is my protein, because sometimes I tend to undereat on my protein. Usually, if I do a little audit, I'm like at 110. I'm like, shit, that's not good enough. I need to get a couple scoops of whey protein, or I need to have some chicken breast or something. And so I just started paying attention to my protein. That was it, making sure I was getting at least 150 grams. And then, yeah, all of a sudden now I'm in the 180s. I just dropped like 3 pounds, for no reason at all.
You think it's because
But
you were
kind of
stressed?
maybe, I don't know. Who
Okay.
knows? Who cares?
Okay.
Really, to be honest.
But go ahead.
But here's the important moral of my story is kind of like you. I was just like, fuck it. I am not willing to have shitty workout sessions right now. And forego this great progression that I've been getting for the sake of making a weight class. So obviously it kind of went hand in hand with physique. I don't really care about leaning up right now or, looking the part or whatever, if it costs me my performance in the gym. That was kind of the bottom line. I was not willing to do that. Sure, I knew I could probably lose weight. I probably had to cut down to 1,600 calories about 5-6 days a week and, make sure that
That's a bad call, Brad.
I structure there, but I wasn't willing to do that. I was not willing to do that. And praise the good Lord, I didn't have to.
I think it's a figure of speech, but yeah, he would have gone on his, yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. That's crazy. You went from like I couldn't get out of the 165s, or like within that range, like you were so close that you could you were able to hit up a lot of meets like a little bit later than I thought you would. To like the current situation where it was like, so it kind of goes to show you sometimes like you do feel like you have everything under control, and then boom, something like that happens.
Yeah.
However, yeah, at the end it all worked out. You're like your strongest ever right now.
Yeah.
Rib poking out and all.
My hashtag nailing is just making sure I get my protein in.
Yeah.
Just protein?
Yeah. Minimum. Yep.
Dude,
Minimum
it's
100.
weird. Yeah, it's weird how like until Bert asked me that, like I don't even know how like when I say nailing it, I just know like I just kind of know when I'm not being an asshole about my food and then when I am. And I never, here's the deal though, right? Which is I don't know, lucky or just upset or was obsessed for too many years, but now like unless life happens like a travel or an event or a whatever, it doesn't just get out of control. Whereas it used to be if I wasn't tracking, it could get out of control, or maybe what I thought was out of control, but it's just so second nature that it doesn't even like, I don't even think about it on that level, I guess. Like if Brandon's like Saturday's like, hey, you want to go have pizza and ice cream? I'm like, bring it. But if it's like a Tuesday and I have a training session, I'm like, no, why would you even ask me that? Like he doesn't even ask me, actually, now I think about it. Like he just like, it's just like an unspoken, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like she's down to grub on all kinds of weird shit. And then until next week, she's not. And that's just kind of, but at the same time, like if he, because Brandon does this, like if he bakes some cookies and he's like, you want a cookie? And it's like a Tuesday night, I'm like, yeah, sure. Because that doesn't upset me. But if it was like, do you want a slice of pizza? I'm like, I don't know, because my stomach. So it's like, again, it's like food choices matter. And as weird as that sounds, like a cookie, I can go train, but slice pizza, I don't know. Just because of how it reacts with my stomach or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of cereal has been eaten in my day recently.
For me, when I fall off with my nutrition, it's just when I start late, like right now.
What do you mean you start late? Oh, like you don't eat enough?
Early on, yeah, yeah. Because I just don't get good sleep, and that affects me more acutely if I don't get good sleep, if I try to eat like way, way, way too much pre-bed. And this is hard because I'm not a morning eater anyways.
Yeah.
So like if I miss that 9 a.m. meal because I have a Skype meeting or something, and I'm like, damn it, I'm be here, and I won't get off the computer for the next 2 hours. I know better, but at the same time, it's just like the way I roll. I'm just after that point, I'm like messed. Like I like the rest of the day is going to be tough, and then eventually again, like it connects with my sleep, and it's like one big cycle. But like I'm not perfect still, like at all. But I would say like I try to get 90% of my days as they should be.
Yeah. It's funny though that you say, or it sounds like when like when we're talking about this, that it's more often than not the slumps in any way are usually our perception, not the reality.
Yeah, we make them to like the biggest deal you can, like all
Yep.
the worst case possible scenarios.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
we knock every domino over, basically.
Well, and
Well,
that's
Yeah.
I had a bit of a freak out today because of perception.
let's talk
In
about it.
fact, I texted Eric. I'm just like, Eric, shit's going bad,
Help.
you know. But I had to kind of step back and I had to realize, okay, you know what? You're 2 weeks out from a meet,
That's right.
and there's a reason this is happening right now. You know, we're getting ready to taper. Fatigue levels are pretty high. You know, I had a big day yesterday. But when I'm thinking like in the moment, I'm like that shouldn't have happened. You know, what happened in my training session today? It shouldn't have happened. But there's a reason for it. You know, and am I actually weaker? No. Am I actually going backwards? No. It's just right now at this particular moment, it just feels like I've backslid or I'm in a slump or whatever because I haven't taken in all the context. And yeah, I think that's a great point, Andrea.
What's funny though too, and you lightly mentioned it, Brad. You said small tweaks, but sometimes we do need like the big shifts. Like again for my first quarter of 2018, I had to quit being coached, which I don't think I've talked about in the podcast yet. Mm-hmm. But it was like for me, it's really important to me, and it was important for me not to be accountable to anyone besides myself right now in order for me to heal these injuries. Because I was just being a fucking idiot. And the context of that is these last 2 years I was chasing this goal very aggressively, and injuries were there, and I'd get one, but we'd kind of deal with it, and then I'd get another one, and we'd kind of deal with it. And so by the end of this time period, there's like 3 or 4 things that hurt every day, quite a bit, more and more progressively. But then this sport that I was chasing, just to quickly mention it for listeners, actually doesn't exist anymore. The Grid League is no more. So it's like the sport went away. Everything hurts. We have this, and in January, right? So as this is happening, I had the flu. We adopted a dog. Something with like we were just launched. There was like this whole big, like, holy shit, January.
There was a lot of things.
There was a
lot of shit that happened right there.
Yeah. And if I would, I was just like breaking in all the ways, right? And so the big thing was like I quit the CrossFit gym. I quit being coached, and not that he wasn't incredible, but it was more like it's my hang up, and Bert knows this, that if I'm being coached, I will do everything in my power to please you, to make you think everything is great, to make you think I can handle it all, to make you, I'm a coach pleaser. And the program might say, like, go to a heavy single, and I would be like, I better get close to my 1RM or find a new one. If it was like, do 70% effort, I'd go through my training logs or like mentally note, what's the best I've ever done at 70% effort? Let's beat that today. Like just dumb shit instead of like, what's today's 70%? And I know it's happening and I cannot stop it. And so I had to just go backwards. Like that's it, you know, and let it all heal. And I know it'll take me at least a year to get back to where I was, but that is the goal, to get back to skill-wise and strength-wise to where I was, but without the pain. And I'm okay with that because there is no immediate pressing like season goal or whatever, right? And then I guess with me, it like has to be a big release. Like with my crazies with nutrition and stuff, it wasn't until I told myself, you're not competing in bodybuilding for at least 3 years. However you're going to do that in order to be okay enough to like not look the part. I had to get off my YouTube channel and stop filming myself in order to be okay not looking the part. And I don't know if that's like a fix for everybody, but sometimes it has to be that big and drastic for me to like recalibrate from my big slump. So it's like I almost have to induce my own performance slump in order to get out of my psychological slump, which is kind of fucking stupid, but it seems to be a pattern, and I can't ignore it.
Yeah. You know what? Anyone who's done this for more than, I don't know, 10 years can like hear you go through that, and like they'd be like, yeah, that was me a few times.
I don't know, and like Brad, you decided at one point, you're like, I'm not going to do bodybuilding again. Like, why? Is it because of the crazies that come with it? Is it because...
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of it. But I mean, I just kind of came to the realization is it's really freaking hard. And
And you don't
I
find
don't want to do
powerlifting
that.
hard?
No, because it's hard in a different way. You know, it's hard in that, you know, sometimes you got to train when you don't want to. You know, sometimes you got to lift what you don't feel like lifting. But the hard when you're dieting for a bodybuilding show, it lives with you all the time, 24 hours a day. You know, you're always hungry, you're always tired, you're always weak, and you got to be really meticulous. You know, you got to be that overly obsessive, compulsive person that at one point, yeah, I was willing to do it. You know, I was all in, and now I'm not. You know, and I don't know if I ever will be. I shouldn't say that I'm not going to ever do bodybuilding again, but like right now, at this point in my life, I know that shit is too hard for me to go chase right now. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I know where you have to go to get there, and I don't want to do it. So it's kind of like we said, you know, and when I did have my meltdown a month or so ago, it's not that I can't do it, you know, because I know what I need to do. I don't want to.
Okay. Bert, you ever felt a huge emotional slump from bodybuilding?
Yeah. I think when my first season was not as good as I thought it should be.
Placing
You know,
wise?
I thought it everything how I looked. You know, I think I had no idea how to engineer one at that point, and yeah, like I projected far greater things for myself because I was doing the off season so well, and I looked really good in the off season. And I'm like, ooh, if I take all this off, get peeled, and peak right, like I'm going to be a pretty good bodybuilder. So to like not have that happen, I wasn't ready for that. Um, that was the hardest part about my first season, and I knew why. It's just that I didn't research enough when it came to that part, or I researched the wrong things. But I was still heartbroken afterwards, and it's probably the only reason I competed the very next year was because like I need to go like get this right. I will correct this, and I ended up basically getting every like big show in Northern California that year.
That's awesome.
So.
Well, it's like it has to feel like it sounds dumb. Like when we talk about our things, we're like, we caused this emotional slump, blah, blah, blah. But we wouldn't be good, not we necessarily, but any athlete wouldn't be good unless they're emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you said, Bert, everyone's going to go through it. It might not be like the same situation, but the slumps are because you care.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if long term you know you care, like the worst slump, like when it's not bringing you any happiness, maybe even the inverse of that, it's like actually stressing you out. Um, you know, because there's times when your training is just flying and it's like makes you like 1 to 10 scale, 10 happy, but most of the time it's like 8-ish. But
Eight.
when you're going
Yeah.
through some of those slumps, like sometimes you're getting nothing. Like it's just stress at that point, but you continue to do your thing because you know that at some point it's going to get better, and you'll have that breakthrough and everything will be good again, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're okay with dealing with the current suck if it means at some point, hey, it'll all be back to how it was and better.
Yeah. It's because we only stress about the things we care about.
Yeah.
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 So advice, let's close with advice for listeners who feel like they're in a rut. Who wants to go first? Not me. I don't want to go.
I'll go first.
Brad.
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
Um, I think we talked about framing it, and I think that's super important. Um, so I jumped on it because I think that's that important. The framing it right to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, frequently, I mean, it's a big deal. You enjoy this, but often we do tend to like worst case everything. And so catch yourself with that. I'd say the second one would be just I like to maybe have little outside goals, or I depend on those a little bit more at that point in time, as long as they don't stress me. I don't know, it can be the dumbest goal. Like, hey, I'm gonna have 3 pieces of fruit every day. You know, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna actually stop work at this point in time and go out and go for my walk. And I start to do other little things to help me feel accomplished when my training is not, not 100% doing its thing. So those are 2 things I use to cope. It's like framing it, and then in the meantime, as we're digging through this, give myself like some low-hanging fruit, I guess.
Cool. Brad, advice for people who
God. Bert took the words out of my mouth and actually.
That's why he wanted to go first, because he's selfish. Because he's selfish.
I just love his term framing it, because like with my little freak out that I had today, that could have been deemed as a slump. I mean, who knows? Maybe it will be a slump, but the big thing is something that Eric told me quite a few years ago, is that fear, basing any decisions or basing any of your opinions on fear, is it's not a real thing, because we don't have a crystal ball, and so fear of something that's going to happen is giving yourself too much credit, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so, I think that's kind of the big thing, is that outside of framing it, maybe you aren't, who knows? You're going to find out probably, at least I'm going to find out probably in a few weeks, right? But, I love it. I'm going to stick with it anyway. It may not be great. Sometimes it may suck a little bit, but I'm going to stick with it in some way, shape, or form. And then, like Bert said, down the road a ways, going through that suck is going to pay off. And number 2, we always have little victories, even when we're in a slump. Mm-hmm. Monday night, I went down there and I had the hardest freaking training session that I had ever had. I didn't want to do it. I was fighting everything. I watched like 2.5 movies as I did my training session. I slept like 3.5, 4 in the morning, But after it was all done, that was a little bit of a victory there. I was like, I just did that shit. Did it, And that was a little small victory.
That's good, Brad. My advice, I don't know. I think I just have to always look at myself, and that I've never had a big giant slump that I didn't eventually, a week, a month, a couple years later, I end up better. Right? Every slump I've ever had, at some point later on in the future after that slump, I was the best I'd ever been. So why would I assume that wouldn't happen this time? And that level of clarity obviously doesn't come until after I've mourned and grieved and cried. But later on, like I'll look at my old Instagram videos of training and like how happy I am when I do hit certain lifts or reach certain goals. And again, if giant slumps started when I was 10, I've obviously come back from them a few times. So it's like, I know that based on my evidence that I know how to come out of these at some point. It might not be as soon as I'd like, but it's going to get there. And so as long as I just put in the work, it's going to be okay. And that is it. Okay. I think we did a good job. Thank you guys for talking to me. Sweet.
Yeah, put your head down and work.
Yeah. See ya.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. 3DMJ prides itself on keeping this show, our blog, and our YouTube channel as free and relevant sources of information for our community week after week. We also release additional free video courses as often as possible at 3dmjvault.com. If you'd like to help support our mission and our work, please consider becoming a monthly patron of our endeavors. Go to patreon.com/team3dmj and donate as little as $1 per month to our cause of helping educate and grow the drug-free bodybuilding and powerlifting communities worldwide. You can definitely choose to donate more, and if you do so, we'll send you discount codes for future use on any of our paid products. But any little bit helps, and we appreciate your monthly support in any amount that you see fit. So again, you can start assisting the team at patreon.com/team3dmj. That's patreon.com/team3dmj. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you in the next show.